Imagine a quiet bus stop in Cheltenham, England, on a chilly day in early 1969. The world is buzzing with the echoes of the swinging 60s, but here, something far darker is about to unfold. A scruffy 27-year-old man named Fred West, with a tangled beard and eyes that hide secrets, spots a young girl waiting for her ride. She's just 15. Rebellious and vulnerable Rosemary Letts, or Rose as she'd come to be known. Little did she know, this chance encounter would ignite a partnership in horror that would claim at least 12 lives over the next 2 decades. Fred was no stranger to the shadows. Born in 1941 in a poor rural family in Herefordshire, he grew up amid rumors of incest and abuse. By his 20s, he'd already been convicted of theft and molestation, and whispers followed him of even graver sins, like the disappearance of a young woman named Anna McFall in 1967. Pregnant with his child, her body later found dismembered and buried in a field. Fred was married then to a Scottish woman named Raina, with 2 daughters, Charmaine and Anne-Marie. But his marriage was crumbling, filled with violence and infidelity. Rose, born in 1953, came from a troubled home too. Her father was a paranoid schizophrenic who abused her sexually. Her mother suffered electroconvulsive therapy during pregnancy. At 15, Rose was already street smart, working odd jobs, but craving escape. Fred's persistent advances gifts, sent through intermediaries, promises of a better life, flattered her. Despite her initial revulsion at his unkempt look, she agreed to a date. Within weeks, she quit her job at a bread shop to become the full-time nanny to Fred's girls, moving into his dingy caravan at Lake House Caravan Park in Bishop's Cleeve. Her parents, horrified by the age gap and Fred's reputation, tried to intervene. They threatened social services, even placed Rose in a home for troubled teens. But love, or whatever twisted version of it, this was, prevailed. By her 16th birthday, in November 1969, Rose was living with Fred full-time. In October 1970, she gave birth to their first child, Heather Ann, in the grim confines of their new flat at 25 Midland Road, Gloucester. Fred, ever the petty criminal, was soon jailed for theft 6.5 months, leaving Rose alone with 3 young children, her own baby and Fred's 2 daughters. This is where the nightmare truly begins. Isolation bred resentment. Charmaine, Fred's 8-year-old stepdaughter from his marriage to Raina, was a spirited girl who clashed with Rose's strict discipline. In June 1971, while Fred was still behind bars, Charmaine vanished. Rose told neighbors the child had gone back to her mother. But the truth was far more sinister. In a fit of rage, Rose strangled or suffocated the little girl, storing her tiny body in the coal cellar until Fred's release. When he returned, Fred helped bury Charmaine under the kitchen floor of their Midland Road flat, her remains carefully dismembered to fit the shallow grave. This act bound them in Blood Rose's first kill, Fred's complicit cover-up. But the body count was just starting. Fred's first wife, Raina, had been searching for Charmaine. In August 1971, shortly after Fred's release, Raina disappeared too. Fred lured her to a remote field near Muchmarkel, strangled her, dismembered her body, and buried it in Letterbox Field, scattering parts to evade detection. With Raina gone, Fred and Rose were free to marry on January 29, 1972, at the Gloucester Register Office. No witnesses, just them sealing their unholy union. Their home became a trap. They moved to 25 Cromwell Street, a nondescript terraced house in Gloucester that would earn the moniker House of Horrors. To outsiders, they seemed like a growing family. Rose, now pregnant again, Fred working odd jobs as a builder. But inside, darkness festered. They began targeting vulnerable young women, nannies, lodgers, hitchhikers, girls in their teens and early 20s, often from broken homes or care facilities. Take Caroline Owens, a 17-year-old they hired as a nanny in October 1972. For weeks, she endured their creepy advances, Rose's suggestive touches, Fred's leering stares. On December 6, 1972, they offered her a ride home but instead drove her back to Cromwell Street. Bound with tape, gagged, and stripped, Caroline was sexually assaulted by both, Fred whispering threats of murder and burial under the patio. Miraculously, she talked her way out, promising silence. She reported them to police, but fear kept her from testifying fully. The Wests pleaded guilty to lesser charges of indecent assault, fined a mere £50 each. They walked free, emboldened. This escape fueled their escalation. In April 1973, their first joint outsider victim, 19-year-old Linda Goff, a seamstress who lodged with them. Lured by cheap rent, she was abducted, held in the basement, a cramped, soundproofed cell they called their playroom. For days, perhaps weeks, she endured unimaginable torture. Bound, raped, suffocated. Her body was dismembered, fingers and toes removed as trophies, and buried in the cellar under the house. The pattern was set. That November, 15-year-old Carol Ann Cooper, a runaway from a children's home, vanished after accepting a ride from the Wests. Held captive, assaulted, strangled. Her remains joined Linda's in the growing graveyard beneath Cromwell Street. Then, just before Christmas, 1973, 21-year-old university student Lucy Partington, hitchhiking home, fell into their trap. Intelligent, kind-hearted Lucy was kept alive for days in that hellish basement, subjected to Fred and Rose's depraved games before suffocation ended her suffering. Her dismembered body, too, was interred below. By 1974, the West's home was a tomb. Victims like Therese Siegenthaler, a 21-year-old Swiss hitchhiker, and 15-year-old Shirley Hubbard followed, abducted, tormented in the small, airless room, strangled or suffocated, their bodies hidden in shallow graves. The couple's charisma masked their evil. They befriended girls from care homes, offering shelter, only to exploit and destroy. As the years ticked on, their family grew 8 children in total, but so did the secrets buried beneath their feet. Fred and Rose West weren't just killers. They were a team, united in depravity. Their crimes born from a toxic meeting at a bus stop that spiraled into decades of terror. What drove them? Power? Lust? Or something even darker woven into their souls? The full horror would only unravel in 1994, but that's a story for another time. For now, remember, evil often starts with a simple glance, a whispered promise, and a bus stop on a cold English day.